Well, hey guys, this is Dr. Dave Harper speaking to you from Mosaic Life Care. Welcome to the webinar on Purification 6-Day Detoxification Program. It's my pleasure to be hosting this webinar. Welcome to all that are on the call, and this call is being taped for future viewing, so this is where we're going to start. All right. So guys, is it time to reset, to press the reset button on your eating habits? One of the biggest things that can have an influence on your health and wellness is what you put into your mouth and what goes down into your digestive system. It's the fuel that we use to function with. It feeds food that is broken down into various different components of macro and micronutrients, feed every single cell in our body to help them do the job that they need to do in every single organ system. Guys, we make over 1,000 choices a day, and around 226 of them are in regards to what we eat, according to research. So it begs the question, why should you cleanse? And why is it necessary to even consider the necessity of cleansing? So we're going to talk about that first. And really, guys, chemicals in food can cause symptoms like weight gain, skin problems, fatigue, low mental clarity. Long-term benefits of a dietary change are endless. It helps to provide the energy that we need to survive for a lifetime that's well. And guys, are you toxic? The question is really no longer if we are toxic. The real question is, how toxic are we? I've been exposed to some of this language and dialogue and rhetoric for many years in my 26 years in practice. And this is now something that is no longer debated or in question in the science and literature. We're all toxic, and we'll talk about some of the research studies that have come out to just explain and to identify how toxic we really are. So throughout our daily life, we're in constant contact with environmental toxins, leading to health concerns in a variety of areas. So where are these toxins coming from? And what's interesting, many of you may have missed the reality that a lot of the public playgrounds that were pressure-treated wood were actually replaced with plastic and metal apparatuses for our kids to play on. And the reason is because the pressure-treated wood is treated with arsenic. And there's enough arsenic in a 2x4 that's 12 feet long to kill 250 people. And what they were finding was that kids were absorbing those toxins, the arsenic, from the heavy metal from the wood into their skin just by hand contact. So it was something that was extremely dangerous, and it was so dangerous that and oftentimes they would replace them. The new ones that were built obviously would be ones that would be plastic and metal. So the definition and source of toxic burden. Toxic burden is a total accumulation of toxins that the body is dealing with. And these toxins come from a variety of sources, but an initial exposure actually begins while a baby is still in the womb. Yes, that's true. So what the Environmental Working Group did, and the Environmental Working Group is a nonprofit group that has looked over the years at various different aspects of how toxic our world is. But two of the studies actually looked into how toxic we are. One is in the adult population, which we'll talk about in a minute, and the other one was in children, newborns. And what they did was they did an experiment where they took 10 newborn kids. Immediately upon birth, when the cord was cut, they took some of the blood, they drew some of the blood from the umbilical cord, and they went and they tested it. And these 10 kids were from across the U.S. They were not associated with any type of high-risk parent activity. I remember one story being told of a police officer and his wife that had a small baby that was crawling on his hands and knees around the home. So, they were not even quite a toddler. They weren't even a year old. They weren't able to walk. And the police officer had attended a scene, an accident scene where there was a toxic spill. And this toxic spill was all over the roadway, and he was walking in it, and he did not take his shoes off upon entering the house. And the baby got toxic and got really sick from the absorption from the hands and the knees and the feet through the baby up into the baby from the toxic residues that the police officer wore off into his home. Very, very dangerous. And so in the study, they actually found that the average newborn had more than 200 chemicals already in their body. I have other research at the office that talks about how the learning capacities and speed of learning with kids is slowest when the mother has been exposed to toxicity when the baby's in the womb. And so they did Halter studies where they had halter tops that would measure the toxicity in the environment of the mom when she was carrying the baby. They would track and follow the baby into um, uh, the academic world of being in school, and they found that that the kids that had the greatest exposure to toxicity in the womb were the ones that had the slowest capacity to learn and academically move ahead through the years of school. Very interesting. So here's the CDC's fourth national report on human exposure to environmental chemicals, and they tested for 212 chemicals and found all of them to be in the blood and urine of most North Americans. And 6 were in particular the highest ones, and we can talk about those another time. If anyone wants to have a further conversation, we can begin to discuss that. But 6 chemicals were found pandemically in every person, and these were things like PFOAs, off-gassing from Teflon, and benzene and dichlorobenzene, and those types of chemicals. So, but unfortunately, guys, certain factors like genetics and these environmental exposure, unhealthy diets, and lifestyle can negatively affect how well you excrete the toxins to which you are exposed. So once we're exposed to the toxin, how we're made up genetically and how healthy we are, how healthy and how functional our liver is and our digestive system is at being able to remove these toxins. If we do not have an efficient way, a clean way, an effective way to get them to move through our body so we absorb them and get them to be eliminated, then really they build up inside of us. And this buildup leads to this increase in toxic burden. And much of this toxicity hides itself in the fat cells of the body or other tissues that are extremely fatty, like the brain. So the brain and body fat tissue is that storage depot, kind of take it out of the way so I don't have to look at it, kind of store it in the closet kind of situation where the body makes a decision to dump the toxins into those areas. By the way, it's one of the reasons why some people have a difficult time losing weight, because when the fat cell loses its amount of fat, it also releases toxicity into the bloodstream of that particular person trying to lose weight. And if they don't have, again, the mechanisms to conjugate that, which means to bind it to something that can then eliminate it throughout the body, then the body fat is put back on because the body needs a way to get it out of its then most immediate circulation in the blood. So how do you know if you need to make a change and you need to really evaluate what you're consuming and cleanse and consider a purification program? And how do you know if the toxins you've been exposed to are actually causing health problems that you might be experiencing right now? Well, here are some of the symptoms of excessive toxic burden. The next few slides will kind of give us some of these understandings. And please understand, too, as well, that rarely does the body actually have only one problem to deal with. Like any type of ecosystem in the wild, there are multiple systems that are going on at different levels and at different instances, all at the same time. You're going to have the balance of the carnivores and the plant eaters, and the carnivores killing the plant eaters, and then you're going to have the balance of the plant eaters eating too much of the plants if they get out of control in terms of the numbers that they have. And then you've got those types of ecological balances in the soil to make sure that the soil has the nutrients necessary to grow the vegetation that the vegetation eaters eat, that then the carnivores kill to eat. It's this whole cycle of life that occurs, and if it gets off skew, if one of those pieces in the chain is impacted, then you have an unhealthy ecosystem and something begins to break down. Maybe you have too many plant eaters. If the wolves, let's say, for example, the carnivores, have a particularly tough time surviving. So there's this tender balance that occurs that nature has. And so some of the things that we see when we have excessive toxins are things that can happen from a multiple of issues, but the toxicity that a person has, being so pandemic, needs to be considered as part of a strategy of living a life that you love and living a life for a long time well lived. And so what I'm trying to introduce in the clinic, and we'll talk about this every quarter, is that each quarter I'm suggesting that this 6-day detox or 6-day purification program is something that you begin to create a ritual around, a habit around, as a healthy strategy. You can do it more if you wish, but at least with every changing of the season. And there are many different philosophies of thinking, the Ayurvedic way of thinking that I studied when I was trying to work through my PhD before the school went bankrupt, unfortunately, that the Ayurvedic medicine has this concept around as the seasons change, so the diet changes. Very interesting. So fatigue, depression, headaches, cognitive problems like brain fog, memory problems, some neurological issues, balance problems, and tremors. These can be in some way, in some instances, connected to excessive toxic body burden. Irritability, then headaches, lethargy, weakness, abdominal pain, kidney distress, elevated liver enzymes. These are things that could be possibly connected to a situation where heavy metal toxicity now can be contributing to the overall ill health within a patient. And remember that the body has this capacity to adapt, guys. I mean, you don't see a smoker taking one drag of a cigarette the first time they ever try and then dropping dead from that particular exposure. Although some people that are overly sensitive may be just that sensitive. You've heard of chemical sensitivities, you've heard of sick building syndrome. These are situations where everybody has their own kind of tissue sensitivities to it. The canary in the mine, so to speak. In the old days, they didn't have systems that would measure poisonous gases. And down deep in the mine, they would use animals, birds, in bird cages. And then if that bird were to pass and die and drop dead off the perch, then they would get out as quickly as they possibly could. And so some of us may have these types of sensitivities, and it behooves us to listen carefully to this presentation because it will give you some tips as to what you can do to help yourself not be so impacted by that. And again, this is the idea that I was trying to speak to earlier, that we get to multiple body systems. So generalized muscle aches and concentration challenges and food sensitivities and food allergies and fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. These are all things that can have links and can have contributions to toxic body burden. And since we all have it, we're all experiencing to some degree, and one way of saying it, we're all experiencing some level of a reduced capacity to perform well in life. So what can you do if this is the case? If these are the challenges, if these are the issues, what's possible? What can be done to help support yourself? Well, there's really two things. One is to become educated about what it means to reduce your exposure. We want you to be less exposed to these things, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the second real way is to detoxify your body, to help provide your body a clean exit route, or at least a more efficient exit route. We really aren't what we eat. We are what we don't eliminate. And that goes really for all areas that, in which we're exposed to things. So, the thoughts that we think aren't our thoughts that we think. We are the ones that we don't eliminate. The food, that which we drink, that which we eat, that which we absorb. We are the total accumulation over time of every single toxic experience, unless we have a way to effectively cleanse and to clear that. And that's what we're talking about. We want to keep that pathway open. And my suggestion is that it's not working when the average number of chemicals is around 212 that the average North American has in their system right now. I think we can agree that any type of toxic environment is not going to allow us to grow effectively growing our health, expanding our health. I mean, you would not want to take vegetables grown in toxic soil and consume them. It would not make sense. But we really don't consider what it means to manage that toxicity within the soil of our cells and the soil of our own body, which is why we have this presentation and why we have the programs that I'll be talking about at the end of this presentation. So we need to reduce our exposure to toxins in the environment, use chemical-free products in your home. In our home, we're now using, and have for several years, chemical-free cleaners. We actually have a really cool opportunity. The Kangen water system actually produces acidic water that can become a cleanser. So you can actually use acidic water to clean your environment, not have to use chemicals and cleaning products. Reduce the chlorine exposure by attaching filters to your shower heads. This is really huge. Let's consider it this way. You're showering and there's chlorine in the water, and it's hot water and it's steamy water, and it's pounding right on your face and right on your chest. I wonder why there's such a prevalence of breast cancer in our world. Maybe it's because of the potential contribution of the chloroform that's released when chlorinated water is heated, that just penetrates straight onto the chest tissue. I've done this experiment different times when I was introducing the Kangen system to people, where we would take regular water and have the person just dip their hand in the regular water and do a chlorine test before and after, just a simple dropper test that you would do, let's say if you had a pool with chlorine in it, and the body absorbs chemicals from the environment, and so it will absorb the chlorine, it will absorb that chlorine in that cup of water that you put your hand in, and the after test, when the hand is removed after a certain number of seconds, the amount of chlorine in that water is actually less. So very interesting, and avoid personal products that contain phthalates and paraben. We can also reduce your exposure to toxins in our food and our drink, choosing free-range hormone, antibiotic-free dairy and meats, eggs whenever possible, fresh cold water fish in place of farm-raised fish. Hard to know where they come from, but that's an important concept to remember. When possible, eat organic produce. Always wash all the produce very well before eating. And what's even more specific is that Kangen system actually produces a water that's able to clean the pesticides off of the fruits and vegetables. The issue here is that they're fat soluble. So the water soluble. They're not water soluble. They're fat soluble, the toxins, because the farmer does not want every time he irrigates his field to have the toxins or wash off the fruit. He wants them to stay there as a deterrent to things in nature that would damage his crop. And so they've chosen non-water soluble toxins, and so just washing only in the sink, is my point, doesn't necessarily get everything off, although you want to do it as best as you can. So we want to continue talking about this, where 90% of our toxic exposure to certain chemicals such as PCBs and dioxins actually come from the food we eat. 35% of all the foods we purchase in the supermarkets have measurable pesticide residues, which make their way into our body. One or more pesticides are on 70% of fruit and vegetable samples tested, and between 5 and 13 different pesticide residues tainted one of every 10 fruit or vegetable samples. So guys, to reduce the exposure via pesticides and herbicides in your food, avoid eating fruits and vegetables on the Dirty Dozen list that we'll talk about, but choose organic substitutes for these foods. And here's the Dirty Dozen. Here are some of the things that you want to buy organic: celery, peaches, strawberries, apples, cherries, spinach, bell peppers. These are things that, blueberries, nectarines, these are fruits and vegetables that are often found with a high level of pesticides and herbicides. So here are the ones that are lowest. So it's okay to eat conventionally grown fruits and vegetables that come from this particular list. And there are 15 of those, the Clean 15. And there's the website, foodnews.org, is where I got that information from. So what else can you do? It seems like it's insidious in the environment. It seems like everybody's exposed. No one's immune from it. Well, metabolic detoxification is simply normalizing the body's ability to process and excrete the toxins while you temporarily reduce the amount of incoming toxins. And that's what this program is about. It's about understanding what foods to eat, how to make better choices, and to learn the skills to do that. And the beauty about this program is it's not asking you to do this for days and days. Some people may want to do something a bit longer, and that's fine, and you can do that. Learning the skill is the first step, and not having that learning process challenged by the length of time that makes it too uncomfortable at the very beginning. I found in practice trying to get something that would be like a 28-day detox, even for myself, is just brutal in terms of the type of lifestyle that we have. And so without having perfection as our target, but more progress, not perfection, the idea here is that the 6-day program is really simple, clean, easy, and it's a great introduction for people that have never done this before. And we'll talk about some of the things not to do. So metabolic detoxification is an energy-dependent process, guys. When we detoxify, the liver requires a lot of energy to do this, and therefore this program utilizes well-researched nutrients, vitamins, and herbs to balance and support the body's detoxification pathways. I'm not a fan of fasting to detox because it actually increases the body burden, and I've seen this happen when individuals have been in various different weight loss programs. Some of them run by even doctors that are supposed to be doctor supervised. And when I've tested them with the technology I have that I also will describe at the end of this presentation, I found them actually get more toxic as they've lost weight. And this is the challenge. So as a person is trying to lose weight, we actually want to consume nutrient-dense foods, and in this case, medical foods that have been specifically created, researched, and designed to support this heavy metabolic process that's going to be under greater stress, because we will be losing some weight in this process of going through any type of detoxification. All right. So here's what it looks like. It's a 6-day detox from Zymogen. There's a few things you get in this kit. The can on the left side, the OptiGHI, is a medical food powder that's been designed to support G, the gastrointestinal system, H, the hepatic system with the liver, and I, inflammation. So it's a combination medical food powder that you mix up in the shake that's provided there, or you can mix into a smoothie that you start with, and it's a way to support and upregulate and manage that high and heavy load of metabolic requirement. There's the Colon X is a product that helps to support the colon, and then a healthy probiotic, Probiomax Daily DF, as a means of helping to recolonize the gut. So a very simple kit, very simple to start with, easy to use. We'll talk a bit more about it here coming up. But here's what I'm talking about. So juicing and other fasting programs can actually deprive your body of the essential nutrients needed to support the metabolic requirements of detoxification. And herein lies the rub. You need the calories, you need the energy, you need the nutrients, you need the precursors to be able to manage the processes necessary to clean the body out through the process of detoxification. I'll talk about the phases in a minute and how the liver works, but you need to have this. And by robbing your body of this, you can actually be making yourself sicker and the cells becoming more injured in the process. So here's what this is. So here's the body's detoxification pathway. We're looking at a healthy liver here. And you see the liver function phase 1 and liver function phase 2, and then it's excreted from the body. And the best analogy that I know how to use to explain it is this. In your kitchen, you've got a garbage. Usually people have it underneath the sink. So as you collect the garbage from the day, we have a green bin, and then we have our regular garbage bin. Whenever a container or packaging or food that can be put into the green bin is used up, you put it into those containers, and that's the beginning process of the creating of a toxin. So call that garbage under the sink a toxin, and there's different types, and there's different stinkiness is to it. There's different components of that, whatever that means, right? So that's where it begins, and that's at that first top of that first yellow arrow on the left. Now, as you take it to the street, that's phase 1. So phase 1 liver function is when you're taking that garbage from the sink to the street. That's phase 1, and in that intermediate place, that's where toxins actually get transformed into a more toxic form. Okay, guys, it's more toxic than the original food stuff or packaging that you put under the sink to start with. And you would agree that the longer that garbage stays at the street, the stinkier it gets, and the more animals and bugs and things can come into that and really make it stink. And so that you want that to be cleared as quickly as possible so it doesn't linger and become more and more toxic. Well, that's where phase 2 comes in. So phase 2 is when the people that pick up the garbage then take it to the dump and it's eliminated. So phase 1 is taking it from the sink, underneath the sink, to the street. Phase 2 is taking it from the street to the dump. And any accelerated process of taking too much garbage out of phase 1 and not fast enough in phase 2 will actually cause those toxins to linger longer in the body. And that can be a genetic wired process where genetically you are predisposed to being slow in bringing the garbage from underneath the sink to the street, and maybe fast bringing it the other way or the other way around. And we can do genetic work in the clinic, and we do that to help people understand who they are. And if they find that they are this type of person, then the reality will be that there's no wiggle room. You have a genetic reality. In my life, doing my genetics the way that I have over the years, I know that I'm a slow detoxifier of cigarette smoke and car exhaust, which means that if I'm exposed to smoke, cigarette smoke, car exhaust, some chemicals, I have a very slow removal system from the street to the dump. And as a result, I need support with nutrients. That's why around the clinic, you'll often see me carrying around and consuming my own daily shake, if you will, that contains more than just the GHI, but it contains the GHI to help support my metabolic processes. So I'm continually cleansing and purifying on a daily basis, or at least every other day. So does this medical program help with heavy metals? Yes, it provides your body with the nutrients to naturally increase the production of different proteins that support heavy metal excretion. That's very important. And again, this is what the kit looks like. And it's based on research. It's based on 20 years of clinical research and scientific experience and clinical experience that helps to put this into your hands and to be confident in what's going on with it. So how do you get started? It's very simple. You'll be filling out a questionnaire, a detoxification questionnaire at the very beginning. Any score of 9 or under in a section, or under 50, you have mild symptoms, over 50, severe symptoms, and this is something that we'll be following up at the end of the program. And this is a simple questionnaire to complete. There's another test that we'll talk about at the end that I recommend you doing too as well, that I can then take a peek inside under the hood, so to speak, and look at your cellular health, and it helps me understand how things are going. But what happens initially is that 2 days before you start the diet and the shakes, you're going to consume Colon X, which is the product that you saw in the picture there, with water at bedtime, 2 capsules daily with water. And if you can move to 1 capsule if you have good bowel regularity and stool consistency. I'll need to know if there's a looseness to your stool. We'll need to monitor that. Most people, though, have a more constipated kind of process. You should be having 1 poop for every meal. So if you eat 3 times a day, you need to deliver that package 3 times a day. So if you're less than 3 times a day, then you're not having the proper bowel function in terms of what's called motility or speed of transit through the GI tract. And we need to manage that if we're going to be dumping toxins into your body. We want to make sure that we're providing, again, an exit point. And you exit through your breath, you can exit through sweat, you can exit through feces, and you can exit through urine. Those are the ways that we remove from our body. Okay, so then we have a simple 3-step protocol. Day 1, you'll begin to eliminate certain foods. I'll help you with that from your diet. There's certain things that you can choose from that you can make. You can have some fun with the recipes. This is why, again, this 6-day program is so powerful, is because it's not asking you to completely revamp an entire lifestyle. We can start on a Monday or Tuesday, end on a Sunday, and it's very easy. A Saturday or Sunday you can end on. And so we recommend starting on a Monday. And the idea of that is that it would end on a Saturday, and that would then be that process. The days 3 and 4 can be tough, just because you're really spending time, remanaging your consumption of food, and sometimes you can feel a craving for certain foods that used to be part of your diet that now aren't for this period of time. And I'll tell you and share with you that usually the foods that you crave are the ones that you're most intolerant to. And that intolerance helps to create those mild symptoms that we have, where we're just not feeling like we've got clean gasoline in our tanks, so to speak. Okay. And here's kind of what it looks like. So days 1 to 6, after the first 2 days, the shakes are in the breakfast, and there's different recipes that I have available in the guide. And this is what healthy eating looks like. So your plate, should be managed this way, and we give you what you can choose from in terms of good choices or better healthy choices, making sure you're drinking clean water. You can use some good oil, healthy snacks, just some different things. And I have other resources for those that need help in terms of understanding how to get this healthy eating underway. So as you continue through this, you continue to take 1 or 2 capsules at bedtime. Upon rising, you'll have the Probiomax, which is that probiotic with water, and then you'll consume the shakes. And then the foods, as I said, are going to be at the different times of snack, lunch, and dinner. And there's different things you can do, again, that we can talk about, okay? All right. So on these days that you're doing this, and the days that you're taking the shakes and things, you'll be eating from a select variety of low potential foods that we'll talk about. It's in the kit. There's a booklet that comes with it, and you'll be able to see that there. And there's different recipe tips that we can give you. There's different resources that I have that I can introduce you to that can help you refocus your energy in terms of your diet. Okay, then the reintroduction phase. In this phase, you'll slowly introduce the foods back into your diet. And this is where you might notice that a certain food that you would reintroduce may actually make you feel sick or ill. And if that's the case, then that food is one that you're intolerant to. I have two different ways to test food intolerance in the clinic. We have a blood test that's extremely accurate at looking at several hundred foods. And then I have a small muscle test kit that we can use too as well that doesn't require any type of finger prick or blood draw. And those are available, and very happy to have conversations with you about what you might be interested in as you consider what it means to become more personalized and individualized in your choices, and understand some of the science behind your own body as to what you need to do to give you the best for you to be the best. Okay, then at the end, keep a daily diary, fill the symptoms that you might have in the diet survey, and then we compare it to the first one to see what type of changes have happened. Don't forget to take your body weight, and we'll talk about that. So after completing the 6-day detox, then you have conversation with me about the simple Healthy Foundation programs to help keeping you feeling great, and the different resources that we have that can help you pick better meals or help you shop, know what to shop, the types of food to have, recipes and menus. There's some simple strategies that I can provide for you that can help to satisfy and move you along in that process. So guys, how to start, give the office a call at 905-629-0688 to set up a time to drop in to pick up your kit. Call in advance, though, to make sure that we have enough, that if I need to get some more, I'll have to order them. We have some in the practice all the time, but sometimes there may be a run on it, so make sure that you've got something to start with. The cost is very reasonable for that box. The kit is $129 plus tax. Now, here's what I was talking about earlier, guys. Consider being tested with our cellular health assessment. The cellular health assessment provides percentage of body fat and lean mass. Those are pretty common concepts that we may have heard of. But those are just two amongst 8 or 9 cellular health tracking metrics that I use to help know whether your body is moving towards a more toxic state or whether you're managing the toxicity effectively. It's very difficult to look into the cells of our body. It's easy to look at it in our mouth and to find out whether we have good dental hygiene, but it's really difficult to look at the cells. And this proven technology is a very simple test. It's only $39, and it measures many things: metabolic rate, it measures phase angle, capacitance, intracellular water, extracellular water, total body water. Will help me know whether you're hydrated enough. It's a way of doing a kind of a very simple dipstick kind of test into the body to help us understand what's going on. So again, guys, I really appreciate the time and the call. As I said, this is being taped. It'll be available. Again, this is Dr. Dave Harper from Mosaic Life Care. And it's been my honor and my privilege and pleasure to present this information. Let's get you healthier. Let's help you learn the techniques and the strategies for healthy living and living a life that you love for as long as you choose to live it. We have the concept of the 100-year lifestyle and the Mosaic method. And this is the optimization part of the O of Mosaic. The M of Mosaic is to move well, so keep moving. And just as a note, not having enough movement in your life will create stagnation. So let's move well, let's optimize, let's support and supplement where necessary, let's acquire knowledge and wisdom, individualize your care, and let's continue looking after ourselves for life. That's the Mosaic method. Let's do that, and let's have a whole culture and a whole family practice of healthy people that are just defying the odds of what the percentages of risk of illness and disease are in our society. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you for your time and enjoy your evening, and look forward to your contact to the clinic. Bye for now.